So we know official figures right now, around 20,000 Cambodians remain displaced, half a year since the December ceasefire, most of them staying in temporary shelters now. Cambodia blames the continued Thai military presence on formerly disputed territory. So what specific protections or assistance are still missing for these families? And what leverage does your office actually have to press Thailand to withdraw and allow people home, even though we know some of these homes have also, been razed and destroyed?
Well, the prism that I'm looking at this conflict and that I bring to this discussion is human rights. So, and also a foundation on international law as a foundation for addressing this particular crisis and the human rights of those who are suffering. So there is a legal obligation, both in terms of international law and in terms of the agreement that was signed on the 27th of December of last year, for people to have the right to return, to go home. And so number one, I was able to see, first of all, the extraordinary housing that had been constructed in a very short period of time for those who had been displaced from the conflict. And watching these kids, lining up for their breakfast and then meeting with the people who had been displaced was very powerful. It was a very powerful moment for me and helped to, so often we talk about these issues in Geneva or New York in analytical terms, right. And we lose sight of the human dimensions of these issues. So that's what was most valuable for me to be there. I think that that the fundamentals are clear in terms of the human rights of the people here. They have the right to return to their homes and their villages. They have the right to livelihood. They have the right to educate their children. They have the right to health care. And as a practical matter, not only is that a matter of right, but it's also in the interest of everyone. I mean, that border area, and as I learned there, is based upon, so much of the economy is based upon trade. Mm-hmm. And so if you take away that, then you disrupt the economy for both sides of the border. So it seems to me that if there is a commitment to international law, and if there is a commitment to pursuing the mutual interests of those who live in that area, then there is going to be a path forward to address the crisis. Now, I don't know what that's going to take. I'm not going to comment on the geopolitical dimensions sure. of the conflict, but I certainly am available to both sides to discuss the human rights prism in which I'm looking at this and to do whatever I can to help perhaps facilitate moving forward.
Okay. And have you raised that with your Thai counterparts through the UN system at all?
No.
Okay.
I have not discussed this at all with
okay.
Thailand.
Okay. So another question I have is, as you were, aware, and as you noted during your brief with the press just before here, so dozens of people, including activists, journalists, opposition figures, even ordinary citizens, have been arrested or charged over commentary on the conflict, often under incitement or national security provisions. And rights groups, such as Lakaido, as you also cited during your brief, tracks around 120 prisoners of interest. Basically, these are people jailed on what they call unfounded charges, criminalizing speech. What do these cases tell you about the state of freedom in Cambodia right now? And did you raise specific cases directly with officials during your visit?
Well, I think there's important work to be done. The answer to your question is yes, I did. I think that there's a need both for an examination of the relationship between Cambodian law and judicial processes and international standards. There is a foundation on which those discussions can be pursued. the government of Cambodia has accepted or ratified eight of the 9 UN human rights-related treaties. It's accepted 84% of the UPR recommendations. So those instruments give us a foundation on which we can engage. And I intend to address and engage with the government of Cambodia the relationship between international standards and the law here in Cambodia with respect to human rights and the application of that law. So we had disagreements about the cases that we discussed. I won't talk about the details of those discussions, but we left with the government the officials with whom I spoke, committed to engaging on these questions, and so I think that's important. I was very clear in saying that nobody should be behind bars because they're exercising their fundamental human rights: expression, association, assembly, and I am very, very eager to pursue with the government discussions to address those who are behind bars, who have been exercising those fundamental rights.
So turning to the scam crackdown now. So we know that this is the most significant crackdown that the government here has done on the solicit industry ever.
Yes.
Yet rights groups like Amnesty International say freed and escaped workers aren't being properly screened for trafficking. They're often treated, as you noted during your brief, visa violators and held in overcrowded detention centers. Did the government give you a straight answer on why victim identification isn't happening at scale? And does the campaign's trajectory so far meet Cambodia's obligations under the Palermo Protocol?
The answer was it was a capacity issue. But to be honest with you, there's a real cloud around this for me, because I heard very contrasting perspectives on what's going on. I mean, some officials said, well, we have a process in place. We're screening, we're caring for those who are victims of human trafficking. We're providing support for them in various facilities. And then others says, no, we're not. We don't have the capacity to do that. And then the numbers, are all over the place. In terms of what I'm being told. So this is an area of inquiry for me. I'm going to try to drill down to get as much information as I can, and then based upon that engage in discussions about how this applies to human rights law and what measures could be taken to move this forward. But it's clearly an issue, and the government was saying to me, look, we know that these operations continue. They're changing in form. If you've got billions of dollars, right, that you're going to find a way, right? That in terms of the amount of money that is being made. So, I was told, well, some of these operations are going out into rural areas. Some are they're scamming operations in condominiums. Some are being operated out of automobiles. There's just a wide range of things that people are using to try to continue the scamming operation. So it's not going to be easy, and the government has been aggressive. They've shut down these facilities. Obviously, I made the point that I think that the enforcement has to be on all levels. Right. That no one should escape accountability for this. And the Prime Minister says, well, there's due process. There's innocence before being proven until being proven guilty. But we'll be following this very closely.
And as far as the commune elections, which are set for next year, given the shrinking political space that rights groups have documented here, what would you consider the minimum conditions for those elections to be credible?
I think that people have the right, the fundamental right, to make a choice when they go to those polls. And they have the right to have access to information on which to base those decisions. And the fundamentals are that they deserve a respect and protection for freedom of expression and assembly and association. And the various forms of intimidation that I've been hearing about, subtle and not so subtle, to put pressure on politicians, political parties, opposition groups, that all needs to be addressed. I think that what is important for me is to get to the facts as much as I possibly can, to be interviewing and engaging with people who are being blocked from a fair opportunity to make their case and to get their case to people. And there's a range of ways in which intimidation is going on, subtle and not so subtle. I mean, I was talking to a group that was saying that they couldn't put a roof on their. They want to expand. They want to put a second level on their house and their political party headquarters, and they weren't allowed. Others who found that they couldn't find a headquarters, even though they had the money to rent a headquarters, because the landlord was afraid of the implications and what the outcome of what would happen if they actually rented to them. So, this is it's a very important, it's a fundamental issue. This is where, in so many respects, the rubber meets the road when it comes to these fundamental human rights. And as I mentioned in the news conference, I mean, I'm a veteran of election campaigns.
Sure.
I insist when I'm running in fairness, and so I'm going to be observing. I mean, this is the very beginning of my mandate. I'm going to be the SR throughout both election cycles, and I'm going to be paying very close attention to those cycles and the status of basic human rights through those cycles.
Okay. I guess my final question, and something I noticed you didn't mention during the news conference, was Cambodia's new citizenship law, which was passed last year, which effectively gives the government the power to revoke citizenship from individuals that have committed acts deemed as treason. Given the state of Cambodia's political environment, how concerned are you about this law, and did you raise this with officials during your trip here?
I'm concerned about a range of laws, including citizenship law. The government has agreed to work with me to systematically look at various bodies of law within, here in Cambodia, with respect to international law and their commitments to the UPR process. So this is something that we'll be delving into. Okay. And we'll be engaging with the government. Okay.
I think that's all the questions I have now, sir. Thank you for speaking with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.